They once rode on the backs of crocodiles. Have you heard of the fearsome and mysterious Tentritai, believed to be an enigmatic tribe of crocodile hunters? Pliny the Elder described them as the only people who dare to attack it, the crocodile, by mounting its back like horsemen. Crocodiles of ancient Egypt provide a unique and enlightening connection to the African continent. This giant and ancient reptile has played a complex role in the history of Kemet. Indeed, it was worshipped in some cities, venerated and respected in others, yet in some it was subdued, captured, and even hunted. For years, modern researchers in the Nile observed what they considered to be a single species, the Nile crocodile, lacking a full context of the complexity and history of African topography. This meant that the different-sized crocodiles were largely regarded as synonyms of a single species of Nile-dwelling crocodiles. But a 2011 study of the mummified remains of crocodiles in ancient Egypt revealed something extraordinary. For, as long as ancient Kemet has existed, the Nile has actually been home to two distinct species of crocodile, these being the large, predatory and aggressive Nile crocodile, Crocodilus niloticus, a Southeast African species, and, rather bizarrely, a closer cousin of the Cuban crocodile. Then there is the tamer, smaller and more personable Central West African species, Crocodilus suchus, whom we will refer to as the Niger crocodile, who is surprisingly a more distant relative to its immediate neighbor than the American variant. What is less surprising, however, is that the highly advanced population of Kemet were not blind to this. They in fact were very aware of the two different species, and as such treated them entirely differently, contrary to modern scientists who only recently became aware of the distinction. The presence of the West African crocodile on the Nile seems to support evidence of a not-so-distant link between the West African Niger River and the River Nile. An intra-Saharan river network has been suggested in numerous ancient texts and reflected on maps by renowned medieval and classical cartographers. Herodotus wrote that the ancient Egyptians recognized one crocodile that was larger and aggressive, and another that was tamer and considered sacred, which they raised in temples. This is supported by the exclusive occurrence of the Niger crocodile, Crocodilus suchus, within Kemetic temples and tombs. In contrast to this, the aforementioned Nile crocodile was and is no tameable creature. It is a menacing beast, second in size only to the Polynesian saltwater crocodile, Crocodilus porosus. Due to its forbearance and formidable hunting prowess, it is no respecter of man or beast and considers all living beings to be amongst its prey. In contrast, the relatively smaller Niger crocodiles, domestic to West Africa, who have been found living in caves as far west as Mauritania, were initially thought by scientists to be sluggish, but they simply possessed an affable, approachable nature, not reflected in their Nile-dwelling stablemates. Because of this, they were favored for domestication and temple interactions, widely adopted as a sacred species across the entire Nilo-Saharan and Sahelian basin, from the Nile Valley to the western coast of Africa. It is likely their success in populating the Nilotic ecosystem was encouraged by Paleolithic and Neolithic local populations because of these very traits. Genomic data supports that Niger crocodiles were actively bred and selected for mummification and other ritual needs. According to experts, a crocodile cemetery in the town of Tebtunis contained thousands of mummies of the West African variety. The sheer scale suggests that the young reptiles may have been bred commercially there. In addition to this, archaeologists recently discovered in the Fayum town of Narmuthis two buildings acting as a crocodile nursery and hatchery, suggesting an institutional breeding program was, indeed, present in at least one town. Contrary to popular belief, much of Kemetic culture has never ceased, but rather it continues to be practiced actively on the continent. The Nubians of southern Egypt continue to speak a language and practice a culture that is uniquely Kemetic, and within this culture, the breeding and domesticating of the crocodile remains part of their cultural heritage in one of many unbroken branches of ritual continuity. This 12th dynasty bas-relief of Amenemhat spearing a crocodile bears a striking resemblance to these images of Nubians capturing crocodiles taken in 1880. A temple is dedicated to Sobek in Kom Ombo, engraved with pictograms and hieroglyphs detailing the embalming of crocodiles. And to this day, Nubians maintain a similar tradition of crocodile taxidermy, one that remains true to a centuries-old technique. Local Mamdou Hassan explains that in spite of the value of crocodile leather, they never sell it since they value the life force of the crocodile. Instead, the mummification process for a dead crocodile involves filling the carcass with straw or sawdust. Large crocodiles take about a month to mummify, while a smaller one dries in a few days, Hassan said. In a similar nature to the cult of Crocodilopolis, the crocodiles of the Nile continue to be bred, adorned, venerated, tamed and cherished as part of a timeless African tradition dating now several millennia and spanning the continent. The Nile for the Nubian represents life. Everything that roams in it we consider angels, one Nubian resident boldly proclaims. However, reverence for this ancient reptile was far from universally applied in Kemet, for in other spats or major cities of the nation, crocodiles, particularly the large and menacing Crocodilus niloticus species, caused apprehension due to their prowess as opposed to their divinity, causing the population to suppress more than venerate them. The Tentritai, according to Strabo, made every effort to track down and eradicate the creatures. In observing this relationship, the Greek historian concluded that the crocodile was utterly despised and said to be regarded as the most odious of all animals. Although this observation may have lacked context, causing the observer to fall prey to exaggeration, the account sounds similar to Pliny's account regarding the Tentritae tribe, whom he said would swim in the river after it and mount its back like so many horsemen. By these means they drive the captured animal on shore. For a long time, tales of the mysterious Tentritae tribe of Egypt and their ability to hunt and tame the crocodile were considered fables, since historians were unable to cross-reference such a city. However, it is now known that Tentira or Tentiris are just Greek enunciations of the now well-known city of Dendera, which lies just north of Luxor. Indeed, the accounts of Strabo and Pliny of an Egyptian city full of crocodile hunters referred to the same place and same people, the Kemetic city of Dendera. Fortunately for us, in the 1st century, Roman artists captured what we can consider to be a first-hand depiction of a true likeness of a citizen of Dendera in an exquisite life-sized limestone statue. Currently on display in the British Museum, the image simply labelled of an African acrobat on a crocodile, a member of the Tentritae tribe, we now know is an illustration of an indigenous citizen of the ancient Upper Egyptian city of Dendera, demonstrating their mastery of crocodile subjugation, perfectly illustrating the words of Pliny, whilst preserving for posterity the true image of these ancient Upper Egyptians. Unsurprisingly, the statue is in total consistency to the numerous busts of Egyptians created by Roman artists that span the 1st century. They all wear their hair in the nationally adorned Kemetic short twist, have Nilotic features, and are unmistakably African. As in most cases with African cultural continuity, not only is the tradition of crocodile breeding and keeping adhered to on the Nile, but travelling to across the continent to West Africa, in the small present-day villages of Bazule in Burkina Faso and Pagu in Ghana, and you will find whole populations of crocodile whisperers and riders, who, like great Africans of the past, straddle the exact same species of crocodile, the Crocodilus suchus, in a manner that uncannily mirrors the exploits of the Denderans of the past. Indeed, they dare to mount the backs of crocodiles, although without the disdain alleged by Pliny, these Africans revere the crocodile with the same respect as the cult of Sobek and the modern Nubians. In another beautiful example of cultural retention, one can still find the culture of ancient Kemet, alive and well on the African continent, more than 2,000 years after the acrobatic exploits of the Tentritae tribe were recorded in detailed written word by Greek historians and illustrated magnificently in stone by Roman artists. Thank you for joining me on The King's Monologue, a place where we are undeterred in our pursuit for historical truth by challenging centuries of Eurocentric ideology that has falsified the global worldview. Thanks to my entire Patreon family, with special thanks to my production team. If you'd like to support the future productions on the channel and help to fund further research, you can find a link in the description. Please remember to like and share the content, and obviously, if you haven't already, Don't forget to subscribe to The King's Monologue so you don't miss out on further reconstructions, commentaries, reactions, shorts and documentaries.